everyone. You're listening to Michelle Speaks on 180radionow.com, currently heard in over 128 countries around the world, and I'm your host, Michelle Portier, founder of Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida. We live in a society that condones living behind masks, hiding who we are and the issues we face, some too taboo to discuss with anyone. You may be worried about being judged or ashamed of what others may be thinking of you. Michelle Speaks not only uncovers it, but we look for solutions to deal with it head on. Stay tuned as we get to the heart of the matter, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. Welcome to another episode of Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it. I'm your host, Michelle Portier, and tonight we are going to be talking about dealing with insecurities. I want to thank my very special guest, Miss Monique Rogers. And before we get into it, I just want to give you a little intro of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we are called a narcissistic generation. We are told that technology and social media are giving us an inflated sense of self. But most of us don't walk around feeling like we are all that. In fact, there is one underlying emotion that shapes our self-image and influences our behavior, and that is insecurity. If you could enter the minds of those around you, even the narcissistic ones, you're looking to encounter ceaseless waves of insecurity. A recent survey found that 60% of women experience hurtful, self-critical thoughts on a weekly basis. The most common self-critical thought people have towards themselves is that they are different, not in a positive sense, but in a negative, alienating way. Whether our self-esteem is high or low, one thing is clear. We are a generation that compares, evaluates, and judges ourselves with great scrutiny. By understanding where this insecurity comes from, why we are driven to put ourselves down, and how this viewpoint affects us, we can start to challenge and overcome the destructive inner critic that limits our lives. So let's delve into this week's topic, dealing with insecurities. Again, I want to thank our special guest and a dear friend of mine, Miss Monique Rogers. So welcome, Miss Rogers. How are you this evening?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and talk about this topic, dealing with insecurities. We all have them, men, women alike, but especially women, I believe. So before we get into, the meat of it, I want you to share with our listening audience, who is Monique Rogers, personally, professionally, and spiritually?
Okay, I can do that. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to Radio 180 or 180 Radio Now, to you and to Mo for having me here today to share my story, to share my testimony, and just to open my heart with you all and your audience.
You're so welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you, girl. Do your thing.
Right.
So Monique, personally, it's interesting that you asked that now, because I just not too long ago did a personality test.
Okay.
Just, to see what it would say. And it's so funny how those personality tests are so right on point.
They're accurate.
They are. And mine came back as a result of an idealist.
Okay.
And that fit me so perfect. It was a person that's reflective, a person that's quiet. And I know a lot of people see me and they see me speaking.
Quiet?
It's like, don't think that I'm quiet, but I really am a laid back if they don't know
Okay,
me.
gotcha. You had to clarify that.
But I'm a really cool person, down to earth. I love hanging out with people. I love meeting new people. I'm a very talkative person at times. Depends on the mood that I'm in.
Right.
Because I'm a very moody person too.
Well, you preaching to the choir.
According to my children, they think that, mom is lame because I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to, get in with them and hang out with them or whatever. Like, Mom, no, please.
Well, stay young.
Just don't. Exactly. Right. Forever young. I'm going to hold on to it as long as I can.
I tell people all the time I'm fighting old age like a bulldog.
Okay, because it's not going to take me down like that. We ain't going out without a fight.
Not without a fight.
So just I'm creative.
Right.
I love people and I just value every aspect of life. I've become a very centered person. as far as my personality and just being more open and honest and transparent. Spiritually, I would say that I am an overcomer.
Okay.
I am a person who has endured a lot of pain. However, I've also inflicted a lot of pain upon others. But throughout my journey, I've learned that the grace of God is sufficient for it all.
Okay.
I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ and his salvation and the benefits of his salvation. I believe in the Holy Spirit and the leading of the Holy Spirit within me.
Amen.
In every step of the way, for my guidance, for my decisions. I'm also a member of Excel Church, where we are excelling in God in every area of our life.
Well, that's good stuff.
Serving in the bookstore. Last Sunday, I actually observed in the 5th grade class. So I don't know. We'll see where that leads.
Okay.
And just
so observed meaning you're leaning towards teaching?
Yeah. I was just kind of just checking it out to see. And I said, I just heard anything from God to do that just yet.
Got you.
But to see if this was something that God was leading me to do.
Okay.
So, and just paying attention and being open to God's wisdom in everything and in every way. Because I need him in everything and every way. And I recognize that in just truly allowing him to be the head of my life.
Okay. Good deal.
In every area. And professionally, I have my degree in business management from the University of Phoenix.
Congrats.
Thank you. I work for CIT Bank. I'll be celebrating 10 years with the firm, actually less than a month from today.
Well, congratulations.
And what else? I am a client onboarding analyst with CIT. And basically what we do is screen new and existing customers for adverse news such as terrorism, anti-money laundering, and any type of fraud to, keep the company from fines and having a bad reputation.
Okay.
I'm considering going back to school, but I'm not quite sure yet. Just trying to see
to get your
how
master's.
To get my master's, to see how everything lines up with the new year coming, kids graduating, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I am also the CEO and founder of an organization. It's a nonprofit organization called Metamorphosis Women's Encounter, where we empower women, mind, body, and spirit. And I am also an inspirational speaker where my message is to inspire hope into action, to inspire the nations, to let people know that you can experience adverse situations in your life, but that there's a power within you if you tap into it. And you can also transform your life, and you too can be hope into action.
Wonderful, wonderful. So there you have it for our listening audience. This is just a snapshot of who Monique Rogers is today. However, we're going to delve into a topic called Dealing with Insecurities, as I stated earlier. And we're going to talk about, Monique and I go back a long way. We were both in the military together. We both have similar passions to help empower women. And so we're going to talk about a topic that we discussed offline. And I wanted her to come on and share, her aspects of dealing with insecurities that she's encountered along her journey. And you mentioned earlier, you talked about how you are empowered now in all aspects of life. But I want to go back to the comment that you made where you talked about you have inflicted pain upon others. And I wanted to ask you, what are some of the contributing factors that led to you inflicting that pain upon others? And what does insecurity mean to you? And how did you encounter it in your life?
Well, the best thing for me to do is just kind of go back to the beginning of where it all kind of started from. I grew up poor, homeless, because my mother was dealing with some mental illness. We didn't know that at the time.
Right.
But because of mental illness, she believed that people were chasing us down. She always referred to the mafia, was these group of people that were trying to kill us.
Okay.
And because of this, she was always running from them and fearing for her life, fearing for our lives. The insecurities began to step in or start to set in for me is when things were just unstable all around me.
Okay.
I wanted a normal life, but I didn't understand why we were always homeless, why we were always around strange people in strange places.
Gotcha. So instability was the root cause of your insecurity. Okay.
And then out of that just flowed everything else. My father not being there to show and protect us, to show us love and protect us. I believe I just felt abandoned, rejected. These are some of the other things that caused the insecurities to kind of stir up within me. Jealousy. I would always compare myself to other people, other families, and just wanted and desired to have what they had. Didn't know anything about how they got it, what I know now.
Right.
But back then, just wanted, just envy. And I remember just being in my room sometimes or wherever I was, daydreaming about having a life that was normal. Didn't know how I was going to do that, but just wanted that. So insecurity for me, or what it means to me, is the unsettling of your soul. Like your soul has been tortured by the people that you love or in relationships. And it causes you to have these negative thoughts towards yourself or about yourself or about your future.
Okay.
Or words that have been negative that have been spoken to you. Like, for example, you'll never be anything without me. And then with those experiences that I was experiencing, and to hear words or the lack thereof, it must be true. And you begin, it's the lies that you hear. It's your own personal lies that you come up with yourself.
Right.
And then you believe in those lies.
Based on what was poured into you.
Based on what was poured in, based on your environment, based on the experiences.
Okay. So you said something about you wanted a normal life. Now, being that the root of that insecurity was instability, what in your mind was normal? What was your idea? What did that picture of a normal life look like for you?
To me, that the first thing that I can think of is the Huxtables.
Okay. I remember the Huxtables.
I remember watching the Huxtables, Black family. Of course, I can relate being a Black woman, a Black girl, or whatever. And just wanting to have a mother, a father, living in one home, parents working, having the nice and finer things in life.
Right.
Having those memories that, children are supposed to have to grow up healthy and strong and become good, valuable citizens.
That's ideal life.
The ideal life. That's what I thought was normal. And I thought to myself, it can't be that people only on TV have this normal life, or white people have this normal life.
Right.
Because even in the neighborhoods that I grew up in, some of the other children were dealing with some of the same things that I was going through. So some of the times I couldn't really relate.
Right.
Either their fathers were missing or their moms was doing different things that didn't appear to be normal. So it was reverting to or looking at TV as an example of what was normal.
Right. So in your world, that abnormality was normal for you.
Right.
But looking at the TV, you knew that there had to be something more.
There had to be something more.
Okay. So with all that being said, how did you begin to deal with the insecurities as they began to surface in your life?
I learned, not really sure how I learned, but I learned how to mask them. How we do so very well.
And what did that mask entail for you?
Just pretending that everything in my life was okay. Not talking about it, not owning up to it. Just pretending that even though I was poor, even though I didn't have the best clothes, probably didn't have the best hairstyle. I know to me, I don't remember how I looked, but I don't feel like I looked attractive. And just kind of being the new kid often, but just pretending like everything in my world was okay.
And it wasn't.
And it wasn't.
So you said you didn't feel attractive. In your mind, what was it? What was your idea?
My idea of attractive?
Yes. What did that look like?
Looking at some of the other girls at school, they would have the latest fashions. They were able to go and get their hair done, whether their parents paid for it or they paid for it or earned an allowance. Listening to their different conversations about different things they were going to be able to do. I was not able to do any of those things. All of our clothes were secondhand clothes. Either my mom went and got them from the church, or some of my family members, came over and brought clothes. but never really having anything new, not even having a Christmas.
Oh, wow.
I remember having one Christmas, and it wasn't a Christmas that my mom paid for. It was a Christmas that was donated by the church.
Wow.
No birthday parties.
So it was never anything that you wanted. It was just things that were handed down to you.
Right.
Okay. So that just kind of fed
make
into
it
that.
work. Right.
Right. That just fed into that insecurity.
Then all the insecurities. Like, gosh, I must not be worth the best.
Mm-hmm. So did that cause you to be envious of other, not just, your mom and how you guys live, but what about, relationships when you started dating or relationships with other girlfriends and things like that? Did there ever come a point in time where you were jealous of them? Or
I've had moments being jealous of my friends, them being able to go do certain things that I wasn't able to do, or get certain things I wasn't able to get. I believe that it kind of subsided a little bit when I started working when I was about 17.
Okay.
By then, I was able to go out and shop for myself, keep my hair done. And then I started to feel more attractive or more appealing. But by that time, about 17, because this whole lifestyle started when I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. So that's a long time.
That's a long time, and so much adversity in between.
To wear that mask.
So much adversity in between. So
let's talk about some of the adversity. Like, what was one of your darkest moments?
One of my darkest moments was living in Houston, Texas, because we lived all over the place with, moving back and forth. And I was about 16, living in 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas, one of the roughest neighborhoods in Houston. In the ghetto, still poor. And at this time, my mother is addicted to crack cocaine. She's addicted to crack cocaine, and my boyfriend is there. He's selling drugs out of our home. Wow. And he's also living with us.
And you were how old at this time?
I'm 16.
And how old was he?
21.
Wow.
21.
That honestly could technically be considered statutory, right?
It is, or it was. Absolutely. And my sister there, just there to fend for herself. My brother, his presence is a blur because he was in and out of state school. But I remember this guy started off being very charming and, likable until he got into my head. I allowed him in every way, and then he became abusive.
Okay, I want you to expound on that. When you said he got into your head, what is that?
What I mean by that is I feel like I was already someone who was broken. Not understanding what love was, not really experiencing love, but him understanding or seeing that I was someone who might be easy.
Okay.
Or easy to overcome and say the things that need to be said. What we call the sweet nothings. And me being who I was, wanting and desiring to be loved, embraced it. And by embracing it, I allow him into my life, into my world.
Okay.
And then once he's in my world, now here comes Boo Boo the Fool. Just bust out of nowhere.
Well.
And become just very overprotective to the point where it was controlling. Didn't want me to wear certain things or go certain places. Didn't want me to have any friends, to putting his hands on me.
Okay. And so did you see that way of where you said he was controlling or overprotective? Did you see that initially? Did you think that was a way that he was expressing his love or his concern or his care for you? Or did you know? Was there a knowing in your mind?
Knowing in my mind that this isn't right.
Okay.
There was a knowing in my mind that everything that was going on around me, I never became comfortable with my environment. I was always uncomfortable. However, in my mind, I always was like, there's got to be something better than this. This can't just be the only way. Right. Didn't know how I was going to get it, but just still had that hope in the back of my mind.
That little spark of hope.
I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out some kind of way.
Right.
And he just was abusive, and I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I feel like I was in a twilight zone. My mother on drugs, and just to see my mother in the state that she was in. I'm not talking about just on drugs casually. I mean a full-out crackhead. It was the most hurtful and embarrassing thing that I've ever experienced.
I can imagine.
In my life. To see your first love, to experience such hurt and such pain. And then on top of that, she was already dealing with the mental illness.
Right.
And just further hurting herself.
So that was just another layer.
That was another layer.
Mm-hmm.
And my father wasn't there. He knew what was going on. He didn't even come save us or come to see about us.
So was there some resentment there?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. For a very long time towards both of them. Mm-hmm. Towards both of them. And I remember during that whole time frame, I made a decision I was going to run away. Didn't know where I was going to go. Mm-hmm. However, where I ended up was my father's house. I knew how to get there. It was in the middle of the night, and I told my younger sister that I was going there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, do not tell him where I'm going. I got to get away from here. I don't know why I didn't take her.
Right. I was going to ask you. So
I have no idea. There was some things that I just think about back then as it relates to her.
Right.
How I was in my own stir of mess. That I was only thinking of myself in so many different situations. We've had our come to Jesus moments and talking about certain things and how she felt in the situations as well.
Right. Well, hindsight, but you were a child.
Right. But I know that now I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have been paying attention to that and noticing that she needed me to be there. And I was really trying to fend for my own self, trying to find the freedom for myself and sanity. And I remember finally catching the bus by myself in the middle of the night. And finally arriving at my father's house. Mm-hmm. And I knocked on the door. I didn't knock very hard because it was very late. And I remember thinking, they hear me knocking on the door. They just don't want to come. Mm.
So you felt another sense of abandonment?
I felt another sense of abandonment. However, I sat on the porch. And I was going to sit there until daybreak. Because I was like, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're asleep. Maybe they hear me. I'll just sit here and rest. Was not even sitting there that long before my sister and my boyfriend pulled up in a cab.
So your sister told him where you were?
My sister told him where I was. And the reason why she did is because he threatened her. Not only did he threaten her, he put in her mind that something probably could happen to me. And if something happened to me, then it would be her fault and all this stuff. So he manipulated her to get the information. I didn't put up a fight. And by nature, I'm not a fighter. But if I'm put in situations where I have to fight, I will fight. But at that time, I didn't even fight. I didn't put on a scene. I didn't scream. I just went because I didn't really believe in my heart of hearts that if I did, my dad was going to come out and save me.
So was it like a sense of you didn't feel important enough for somebody to come and save you or care about you? So there was some self-worth issues?
Some self-worth issues, yes.
And so with that being one of your darkest moments, why does that particular moment stand out from all the rest? Because I know you've encountered quite a bit of adversity. So what made that different? What made that be the one thing that stood out the most to you?
I believe the reason why I chose that one is because it was so much going on. How in that whole chapter of my book, that particular chapter in my book, so much had gone on with my mom being on drugs, the abuse, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, and the verbal abuse, living in the ghetto, watching my mom get high, watching her do some very strange things, my brother in and out of state school without any direction, my dad missing in action, this guy in my ear, one minute he loves me and the next minute he don't. I've just felt so totally lost and confused.
Right.
Never became comfortable. Never wanted to turn to drugs to ease my pain because I couldn't stand what it did to my mother. Didn't want to, it was just a very dark time. And I didn't know how I was going to be free.
So again, it was just that instability.
I think with just being a child too. It's just, I didn't have it's like I didn't have no control. I couldn't run away, didn't have no money, didn't have nowhere to go. It's like I had to endure it. I had to stay in it.
Okay, so no control. So with all of that going on, what was the pivotal point in which you began to come out of that?
The pivotal point to come out of that, because that took a toll on my life for a long period of time. So when I finally had a chance to get away from him, my mother lost that apartment that we were in. and we had to move back with my grandparents.
Okay, so you had transitioned to the point that you were out of the shelter and into an apartment.
Shelter.
Okay.
We was at an apartment at that particular time when all that was going on. And my mom lost that apartment, and we had to go back to my grandparents' house, which was, for me, a safe zone.
Okay, that was your safe haven.
Yes.
And why was that the safe haven?
Grandparents are the most loving people. It represented home, stability. It represented being stable, at ease. It was food to eat. There was family. There was pictures on the wall. There was carpet on the floor. It was everything that, to me, that was the closest to being normal. The only thing that was still abnormal was my mom. My mom was on drugs for a very long time. So that was like the turning point. But still even in that, I still looked back. After getting away from this guy, finally finding this place where I could be safe. I didn't have to deal with him anymore because he wasn't going to come around my grandfather.
Okay. Gotcha. So that was the no-go zone.
There was a no-go zone.
Okay.
He called me up on the phone one day. And one thing I was familiar with or used to him buying things for me. I had gotten very spoiled or accustomed to him buying things for me.
Okay. So did that represent love to you?
In a sense, I believe that did represent love to me.
Okay.
And my grandmother had cooked something and I didn't want to eat it. So I was like, I know who I could get to bring me some food. And I said, let me call him up. So I called him up and he answered the phone, and immediately I can tell he was high and having a good time in the background. I already knew in my heart of hearts. It's like still to this day, I knew that was a bad decision that I made, but yet I overrode it and went with it anyway.
Wow.
And I asked him to bring me some Dairy Queen. And I was like, hey, can you go up the street and just bring it to me? I didn't want to get in the car with him. I didn't want to go anywhere with him. I was like, can you just bring it to me? I allowed him to convince me, girls, right up the street. We'll just go right up there. I'm going to bring you right back. And I was like, okay. I'm going to go, but I'm going to bring my sister with me so we won't have any problems. As soon as I get in the car, close the door, I could just feel this sense of just wrong, this wrong turn, just wrong decision, just immediately, just this burden.
So your radar was going off?
Yes, just ringing. We finally get down the street to Dairy Queen. Get inside Dairy Queen. So far, so good. He's still kind of wild, but we made it. I order my food, and he's in there. And I remember loaning him some money. And I was going to this program. And he was selling drugs. So, of course, I was like, okay, I'm going to give you this money. He was like, yeah, give me this money. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to give you double back.
Right.
Never did get my money. So, but he's in the restaurant showing off like he got all this money. And I was like, oh, well, since you got all this money, can I get mine? And why did I say that? That was the turning point to breed a heap of confusion.
Right.
He called me a B so loud that I just felt like I was just going to sink into the floor. I was ultimately humiliated in front of the entire restaurant. So I was like, okay, been here before. Let me just grab my food very quietly. I'm going to go to the car. I'm going to wait there until we go back home. Do that, get in the car. Because I didn't say anything to him about getting my food, he was like, you da-da-da-da-da, calling me all kind of names. And like we tussling in the car. You could have told me you got the food, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, I ended up getting punched in the face. Eye swollen shut.
So that only added to a sense of low self-worth.
Low self-esteem, unworthy of the best. That proves it. These situations over and over and over again.
Okay. So with that being said, that was one of the darkest moments on your journey, because you said earlier at the top of the show that, you know, all aspects of life, you are just completely transformed and living life abundantly. So on that journey, what has been the secret to your success, and do you still battle with bouts of insecurity? You might, like, for example, maybe Your home is not what you want it to be. Your figure is not what you want it to be. You're not accomplishing enough. Do you feel like you have to accomplish, and that provides you with a sense of security or confidence where you don't feel insecure? Is achievement a way of making you feel
secure?
Right. Accomplished?
I would say probably yes, if I think about it over time. But going back to your first part of your question in reference to the key, what was it again? You said what was the key to my success?
Right.
There's not just one thing that transpired the success or the stability. Excuse me.
We got to be able to laugh at ourselves. Yes, there are bloopers.
That I am experiencing now.
The stability.
Right. It was a process of a series of different events that brought me to this point.
Share with us some
For example, accepting Christ in my life was like the beginning of it. No, I'll take it back even further than that. Joining the military.
Okay.
Just completely taking myself away from the environment, away from the people, and just going to a place where nobody knew me.
So in a sense, was that your way of escape to reinvent yourself?
I didn't know I was reinventing myself. Okay. All I know is I wanted to get away. And that opportunity presented itself, and it's so strange how it opened up because I swore in. But then after the summer, hanging out with my girlfriends.
For our listening audience that may not know what swearing in means.
That's when you go down,
right?
Raise your right hand and say, yes, I'll join the military. Okay. I'll serve. I'll volunteer.
Okay, you'll serve your country.
I'll serve my country for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So after doing all that, we decided that we didn't want to go to the military anymore. We was having so much fun, just wilding out, doing stuff we didn't have no business doing. Me and my best friend.
Okay.
Me and my best friend.
Okay.
And because we signed up to go on the buddy program.
Okay, gotcha.
And the recruiter that signed us up came to both our houses separately and told us that because we'd sworn in that we could not back out, that we had to go, and that was a lie. So had he not said that, for whatever numbers he was trying to reach for that month,
right, you wouldn't have gone.
I wouldn't have gone.
Okay.
So I ended up, that was the first key to my success, was removing myself from the situation, going to the military, starting over, meeting my husband, finding somebody who loved me for me. And that was really kind of hard for me to accept because I had such a disoriented
I was going to ask you that.
Of love. That was it was a strain for a long time, even into my marriage. Accepting Christ was another.
Okay. And how long have you been married? And so okay.
I'll be celebrating 20 years in December.
Okay. And so for how long did you battle with the insecurity and how and that causing issues within the marriage, if it did?
I would say like the first 10 years of the marriage.
Okay.
The first 10 years of the marriage was just me battling with accepting love. And I learned through him, through our relationship, unconditional love.
Wow.
That's how I learned unconditional love. So that was me meeting people that I admire, like yourself, through mentor support, through reading, through research, through the desire of wanting to become better, just being tired of being sick and tired of myself. And finding out, I wanted to know what was the purpose of all this pain. That was like
was that your driving force?
I believe that was my driving force. I was trying to find the word. That was my driving force. Like, what was the purpose of all of this? What was the purpose of all this? And that was the key to all these different pivotal moments. Just revelation after revelation of these aha moments. Like, oh, really?
Right. So even now, with all of these successes in your life and all of these things that you're just living that life abundantly, do you still now find that there are times that you battle with insecurity?
Absolutely. I still do.
Okay.
There's like this remnants of things that still pop up in my mind that I have to overcome.
The residue.
The residue.
And so when those things pop up, like, can you give us an example of what some of those things are and how you resolve them?
For example, when I'm invited to an event, to participate in an event. Like someone, they see me, they think that I'm amazing, they think that I'm awesome. And I'm like, me? I had that moment when I'm like, you want to invite me?
Like, who are you talking to?
Right? Like, I don't think that I'm ready for that. Or in my mind, I'll hear just thoughts of like, I'll compare myself maybe to somebody else who I think may be more qualified. Like, wow, that person I can see being more qualified to do something on that level or something like that. But you choose me. So what I have to do is I have to encourage myself. The 9 times out of 10, unless I'm just really having a moment, I have to reach out to someone, but I encourage myself.
And how do you do that?
I do it through prayer. I do it through affirmations. I do it through, like, I'll hear something. 9 times out of 10, I always hear a word or an inspiration. For example, today I was listening to 107.9, The Power Up with Pastor Terry. Okay. And he was talking about the heads and the tails of a coin, like back in the day, like how we always thought like the head side of the coin was the best. And ultimately he boiled it down to, and I remember I posted it today, he said, God's grace covers all the negativity about ourselves.
That is profound and very timely.
I was like, that is so, I was in my seat at work like, oh my God, that's just so right on time. I know I'm not quoting it properly, but that was the gist of it. God's grace covers, God's grace makes my negatives not so nasty.
Okay, I like that.
That's what it was.
So can you just off the top of your head, can you drop one of your declarations on us for my listening audience, for somebody that may be in a dark place, in a valley?
Usually what I do, because by myself, I'm very animated. Although I'm very laid back, as I said in the beginning, but I get in the mirror. Okay. And I look at myself and I'll be like, girl, what's wrong with you? I just start talking to myself like I'm talking to you. Right. And saying, girl, you are beautiful. God made you fearfully and wonderfully made. You are absolutely phenomenal. Why are you tripping? Okay. Who told you couldn't do this? God said you can. He gave you purpose. He gave you a will, and he gave you the desire to do everything, and you have everything that you need to go and do it. So go and do it then. What you waiting for?
So you speak back to those negative thoughts.
I speak back to those negative thoughts. Okay. I have to speak them back. Okay. And I've learned to do that over the years because a long time ago, I would just give into it. And I've never been diagnosed with depression or anything like that. But now understanding what depression is, I think I have dealt with depression. Right. I've never had any counseling or anything for it, but like I said, just understanding what it is. And I don't even remember what I did to come out of it at those times. I guess just not giving up.
Right. So I think I can pretty much say that I think we've all at one point in time encountered some form of depression. There are extremes, but I think we can all say that I know that I have battled with it in the past, and I still do periodically at times. So that's, that can be that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother subject for another day. But what I wanted to ask you to do. So for someone, some man, some woman, some young lady, some girl, or some young boy that may be contemplating ending their life because they're battling with insecurity and they don't see a way out. And you were talking about one of your darkest moments and how there was still just this inkling of hope inside you. If they were in front of you right now, what words of encouragement or hope would you provide them?
The first thing that I was thinking of, like, I've never thought about committing suicide, but I do remember wanting to disappear. I don't know if that's the same thing, but
wanting to disappear,
just
wanting
disappear,
to be
just
invisible,
fade, just be invisible. Okay. Just didn't want to be bothered or talked to. I guess that's, just wanted to be invisible. So what I would say to someone who's considering that is just don't give up. To try God, and that's exactly what I did. It's free. It don't cost you a thing, and all you have to do is try. It only takes a choice of belief that he is real and he will show up and show out in your life. And if you are here today, you're here for a reason. and to find out, get busy about finding out what that reason is. Okay. You're here for that person, for somebody else. And if you end it, then that will never be fulfilled. Okay. God loves you. We love you. Your family loves you. And you think on those things. Think about things that you're grateful for. And I think that's a lot of times we start thinking about, when we get depressed and when we are thinking about committing suicide, we just think that there's no hope. Mm-hmm. But there is hope. Right. Hope lives on the inside of us. It lives on the inside of God's people. And all it takes is for you to make a decision that I will live. Okay. Say out of your mouth, I shall live.
Well.
And you shall.
Well, I shall live and not die.
That's it.
So for our listening audience, if you are in that dark moment, you've heard it right here from Monique Rogers, that there is hope. So, Monique, I identify with the hurt that you're talking about. Keeping a healthy relationship is very difficult for me because of the hurt and trauma and ultimate embarrassment that I've endured. So trust is very hard for me. Mm-hmm. So what did love look like for you? I mean, how did you even get to the point that you could have a relationship, let alone a marriage?
Gosh, my husband is God sent. Mm-hmm. He is the one who, with my crazy self, because oh my gosh, I was so hard to deal with. Mm-hmm. But he stuck in there, showing him remaining there was, I guess, the eye-opening moment for me that I can have this. Mm-hmm. Everything that I daydreamed about, I can have.
And that you were worthy of it.
That I was worthy of it.
Mm-hmm. Did you tell him about your past and then how did he feel and how did you feel?
I've told him all about my past. There's no secrets. Mm-hmm. He knows everything. Everything. All out.
The down and dirty.
The dig, the dirty, the dog dirty.
No secrets.
No secrets.
Woo. That's brave.
And
that's
yet,
brave.
He still loves me through it all. And I remember I used to always battle my husband because God has given him the gift of wisdom. Mm-hmm. And however, us being immature, he didn't know how to actually operate in his leadership and his wisdom. Right. So to me, it came off as a put down. Like, I'm smarter than you. Mm-hmm. So I would never...
Give me an example. Like, what did that look like?
Like, for example, like just in decision making for things for the house. Mm-hmm. Like, I went ahead and done this, which it always turned out to be well, but you didn't include me on it. So I feel like you were making a decision behind my back.
Okay.
And not trusting that.
So did that feed into the insecurity?
That fed into the insecurity.
Okay.
And just us, I think, being young too, and not, understanding like communication, that we need to communicate. But I always would battle against him. Like, I always wanted to be right against him. This is my husband. Instead of us linking and becoming one and flowing together, I was always butting heads with him all the time.
So when you were doing that, were you thinking back to the previous relationships that you had were abusive?
Yes.
So was there a little bit of projection, do you think?
I believe it was.
Okay.
I believe it was because I wanted to be strong too. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like I felt weak.
Okay.
And not knowing I didn't have to do that with my own husband.
So you felt in control.
Yes.
Okay. So how did he deal with all the things that you were
all the things that I
putting him through, right? And all the things that you shared with him, and
he dealt with it. Like, he loved me through it all.
Okay. How did he show that love?
Being there, taking care of me, taking care of us, making sure that I had the things that I desired.
In spite of
my crazy self.
I think we all have a level of cray-cray. So how did he respond to your attitude?
He would have an attitude as well until he learned how to deal with me and being more patient with me.
Okay. And that took time. Because he too came from, dysfunctional household. Okay.
So it took time for him to learn how to do that. And it took time. So it's like we grew together.
You grew up together.
We grew together and transformed together.
Okay. So is it fair to say that he was dealing with his own insecurities?
I would say he was dealing with his own insecurities.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep, very interesting. We need to write a book.
Right, you should. You could probably help a lot of marriages, a lot of relationships.
Just sticking out, working through it. I remember hearing something a long time ago. This lady said, when your bed get hard, roll over. And I was thinking to myself, because I heard it years ago,
Well,
probably
help
at least 13
me to
years ago.
understand that.
Well, to me, what I understood that to be later on in life was when you have problems, you stay there and you work through them. Mm-hmm. When your bed get hard, just roll over. Okay. You don't leave.
You just shift.
You shift.
Okay, got it.
Finally
I got it. Yeah.
New position.
I made the connection.
Because at first I was like, what? But yes, that's it. You work through it.
So how important was it that you two communicate with each other? And how could you do that with any clarity, knowing how difficult the backgrounds were that you both came from?
That was really a challenge in our marriage. Communicating and trying to hear one another. It took a lot of conversations, a lot of heartfelt, deep conversations on how this made me feel. And when you do this, I like when, teaching each other how to love each other or how to make each other, how to communicate with each other. I don't like when you say this, or I don't like when you do that. And respecting that and compromising.
Okay.
Those were some of the things too that I could see that he was trying really hard to do, even when I wasn't doing my part. He would continue to do whatever was necessary to keep me, because I was the person that was always talking about leaving, and I wanted to go, and I just couldn't stand it because I think that I saw my mom run so much.
So you were conditioned to run when things got difficult.
When it got difficult, I didn't want to deal with it.
And that was part of that insecurity. Maybe, and tell me if I'm wrong, maybe you wanted to be the one to leave so that you were not left? Or were you just feeding into that?
I think it was more of, I just didn't want to deal with it.
Okay.
It was too much, and I didn't want to deal with it. He'd be like, no, we're going to work it out. If I would go sleep on the sofa, he'd come in there. We're going to deal with it.
Sounds like love
over
to me.
and over and over again until now. We'll be celebrating 20 years in December.
So is intimacy affected when you two were conditioning each other? And how important was it that you discovered how to love each other, and what did that look like?
Intimacy in those times were definitely affected, because if you're not communicating, if you don't feel like you're one, if you're not feeling like you're one spirit, one body, one soul in the marriage, you're not going to want to be intimate. If like for myself, if I'm feeling like,
and not necessarily talking about sex, just intimacy.
Oh, just intimacy in general. Okay.
But of course, that's included.
That's included into it. But yes, it's such a difficult time when there's these insecurities that's playing a part in your personality, because you can find anything wrong in a situation that may not even be that way.
Right.
But just continually communicating, talking through these things.
Even when it's hard.
And that's
revisiting.
When you build, revisiting. Instead of sweeping things under the rug, you got to pull it out. As difficult as it is, you have to talk through it each and every time. Okay. Each and every time. And just crying when you have to.
Right.
Boo-hoo crying through it.
Right.
Holding each other.
So not giving away what, your secrets are, but was there a certain code or a language that you guys shared to indicate that, hey, we need to talk, or we need to table this, but we need to come back to this?
We didn't have any code words. We didn't have any code words. Usually it would be me that would be the one that we'll have a conversation about something, and then maybe I'll think of something a day or two later.
Okay.
And then I'll bring it up again.
Okay. So what would you say are the top 3 things that a relationship must have when trying to push past your past?
Communication, definitely.
Okay.
You have to understand what unconditional love is and how to demonstrate that. So communication, unconditional love.
And I know that's a tough question.
And I would say trust, loyalty. I know that was like an extra one, but
you threw a bonus in there.
A bonus.
So communication, unconditional love, trust, and loyalty.
Yes. Trust is so important when you're dealing with the past, because I need to be able to trust you with all of me.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not that you, and then so that you don't bring it up again in such a negative way to try to hurt me. Because then it's going to cause a person to shut down.
Wow. So, Monique, how can people find you to support your cause?
I am on all social media. Well, not all, because I'm not on Twitter. But I'm on Facebook under Monique Rogers. And my organization is mwegroup.com, Facebook, mwegroup.com. I am also on Instagram at MWEINCWE. And our website is www.mweinc.org.
Okay.
And if you wanted to contact me, I'm 904-701-3393. And our email address is a_makeover@ymail.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you. There you have it for my listening audience. The 3 takeaways and a bonus, actually, Monique said that you must have in a relationship is communication, unconditional love, trust, and loyalty. So to wrap it all up, dealing with insecurities. There isn't a person among us who doesn't have some sort of insecurity. Some are just better at dealing with them or perhaps hiding them. Hence, our tagline, if you hide it, you can't heal it. The question becomes, how do we overcome our insecurities? And how do we become okay with ourselves, flaws and all? And how do we learn to find contentment and peace? By a willingness to face what we don't want to face. It takes courage to set aside distractions and our preconceived ideas of perfection to focus on what we're struggling with. And what are some of the obstacles? As Monique has mentioned during this episode, past criticisms, negative self-talk, negative self-image, needing approval, lack of trust in self and others, social media, unacceptance of our imperfections. And what are some of the solutions? Forgiveness of the past. That's a biggie.
Oh, yes. You got to do that.
Well, self-acceptance, approval, developing trust in others and ourselves, embracing the non-comparisons. We must stop comparing ourselves with others. And finally, a willingness to believe what the Word of God says about us, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
And a willingness to understand that we aren't made to be replicas of others, that we are a peculiar people, crafted by our Creator for His good purpose. I want to thank you, our national and international listeners, for joining us. You've been listening to Michelle Speaks with me, your host, Michelle Portier. Today's show, Dealing with Insecurities, with my friend and special guest, Monique Rogers. Tune in every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on 180radionow.com. And if you missed this show or any of our previously aired shows, you can go to 180radionow.com and click the podcast link to access the podcast directory 24/7. Look for the Michelle Speaks show logo and click it to get access. Download the 180 Radio Now app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Just search for 180 Radio Now. We're on every major internet radio outlet. TuneIn, iTunes Radio, Streama, radio.com, and more. Again, just search for 180 Radio Now and hit me up on Facebook.com/Michelle Speaks with a Z. Or email me at beautyforashes, and that's BEAUTYFOR, ashes0126@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to give me a call, hit me up at 904-370-3549. It is my prayer that what you have heard this evening has blessed you. Join us again and let's get to the truth of the matter. And remember, if you hide it, you can't heal it.